up, everybody? It is Local Joe back in action here with my podcasts. Sorry, I've been kind of on hiatus here for a couple weeks. Actually, I just missed 1 week, but I felt like it was 2 weeks because my I had somebody lined up for the 2 weeks in a row, and both weeks my guest was unable to make it. So trying to wing it here. Last week I didn't actually wing it because I was sick Sunday and Monday, which is usually when I do my recording and editing of my videos. So I actually just kind of took a week off and got myself back into shape and make sure I was able to give my best going forward from there. So, anyways, if you haven't subscribed and shared and followed me on all the socials, I'd appreciate it. Local Joe Farmington Hills on all the socials. Like I said, feel free to share that with all your friends, all your real estate buddies, or anybody else that's interested in Farmington Hills or real estate. So today I thought I'd go over a little bit of local news first. So obviously I mentioned that I was sick. That's not really news, but it was news to me. So the other big thing that happened during that week was the shooting at Temper, Israel. Obviously that was terrible, and it was kind of a big deal here for a little bit there. My wife works right in the area, and so they had her on lockdown and all kinds of crazy things were happening. My kids were on lockdown. So yeah, that was very scary for everybody, and thank God it wasn't worse than what we saw there. So thank everybody, all the first responders for their quick response and great action there. The other big thing we got coming up here is this Saturday, April 25th at 1 p.m. They got the Great Farmington Cleanup. So that's where everybody gets together and cleans up the city and makes it look pretty. We're gonna there. Everybody's gonna be meeting at the pavilion at Riley Park downtown at 1 p.m. on the 25th. So they're gonna have pizza and prizes after we get done cleaning up. So if you can make that, definitely show up. It's gonna be a great time and a good way to show your community support for the city and all that. So and keep things looking good. Let's see. That's about it for the news. As far as what I've been up to, listening to, and those type of things, I got three favorites that I always go to. These are my go-to podcasts. So, Diary of a CEO, My First Million, and The Game by Alex Ramosi. Those are my three that I pretty much listen to every week. Most episodes of all of them. It can be a little hard sometimes to keep up because the Diary of a CEO are usually anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours long. But that's actually why I really enjoy it because they go deep on all the topics. So, you can get all of the information you need from the news and all the headlines. But basically, those people are all just kind of fed the same little clip of what's going on, the little news bite, the sound clip or whatever. I love Stephen Bartlett because he asks great questions and he really goes deep, and you really get a really better insight on all the different topics. So I love that, and he covers health and business. He talks about business, but mostly he talks a lot about health, mental health, and physical health. So that's why I really like that one. My First Million, those guys are just great. Sam and Sean, they joke around a lot. I appreciate their humor. They're kind of nerds, but at the same time, they're just funny nerds, and I can relate to that. So I kind of really enjoy that one. Alex Hormozy, I just think he's like the best business person around. His ability to dissect bottlenecks in your business in just a few minutes is amazing. Although I'm getting better at it as well, just listening to him all the time. And it's basically, there's usually only a few things that it really comes down to. So which kind of brings me to my next thing. So I've been listening to this new book by Jordan Belfort called The Way of the Wolf. Many of you may have seen The Wolf of Wall Street, the movie with Leonardo, that kind of portrays his life in that time period of what he went through. This book is a little bit different. It talks about his sales process that he came up with during that time period, which made him so successful, which is kind of what the other movie was about. But this book specifically just talks about his straight line selling process and how that works. So I found that really interesting, and I'm on my second time listening to it already. I just think it's a great process, and it just makes sense to me. Um, Basically, he kind of talks about you have a certainty scale from 1 to 10, and in order to be able to sell anything to anybody, you need to have kind of like a 10 almost on these. There's five things altogether, but the three main things that you start with are they have to be confident in you and your product and your company. So if they believe in your product but they don't believe in you, or if they believe in you and your product but they don't believe in your company, it's going to be hard to close a sale. So even if you have all of those things, there's still other things that you have to worry about, which is their threshold for pain and their threshold for taking action, which are kind of related, but are still somewhat separate. So I thought that was great. And then he talks about looping back in to get them past that objection and clear that smoke screen, basically, which is what most objections are, or some type of smoke screen to get to the ultimate objection, which is what's really holding them back. So really, I definitely suggest that's a good book for everybody that's in sales to read. Housing Wire Daily. So they've been talking a lot. Some of the stuff I have here is a little outdated. It was Iran. Obviously, this is causing some problems in the mortgage market. We were on our way. They had predicted basically two price cut, or I'm sorry, interest rate cuts over this year. Now that since the war has been started, we've actually seen rates go up a couple of points, and they're now talking about possibly raising rates at some point, maybe in the end of the year. And the reason why is, when you get oil prices, which is what's happening, so we've seen a lot of disruption in the oil market, and it's a commodity, worldwide commodity, and what that does, it drives prices up everywhere. We've seen it here at the pumps. We've seen it in oil price per barrel, but oil is basically used in everything. So what we're seeing is a rising in price, and the longer this goes on, we'll see it affect more things because companies will have to adjust. If it was only a week or two, that'd be fine. They would just eat that. But once it starts going on longer than that, companies have to adjust their pricing to make up for this added cost, and so that drives inflation into the market. And when you have rising prices and inflation, the Fed's way of countering that is to raise interest rates and make it harder to get money and have people spend less. So that kind of stinks for the housing market, but at the same time, it's kind of amazing because the sales numbers and stuff have been good so far. So even though we've seen that disruption and a little bit higher rates, we've still been seeing the pending and mortgage application data all been positive year over year and month over month. So that is exciting. I was trying to get back to the gym every day. I've changed my goal now to 2 days per week. I was actually able to hit it last week. The week that I was sick, I actually just took that whole week off. So to to help myself rehabilitate or get back up to par or whatever. So I think that's what I was kind of overdoing it. I was feeling kind of sick and I went to hockey anyways, just thinking I should tough it out. And I think that kind of pushed me over the edge last time. So trying to take it a little bit easier, but also trying to get back into it. So, and then speaking of hockey, we had a must win. We were playing Avis Ford. They were 1 point behind us, so we beat them 3-2, which was great. There was only 1 second left. So what happened was we were playing, and all of a sudden we had a power outage, which was kind of crazy. It was only a brief second, but when it happened, it caused the time clock on the game clock to stop with like about 43, I think it was 43 seconds left. At that point, the referee noticed and started counting it on his watch. There was some kind of argument a little bit about did he start counting it at 43 or did he? Someone said he didn't start counting till 37. Blah blah blah. Anyways, they didn't stop the clock and they didn't stop play. So at some point, we all just kind of kept playing and went with it. And the ref was actually counting down the time out loud for everybody, so we knew how much time was left. And we ended up scoring with 1 second as he was counting down one. It went in. So the other team did protest the victory, but they were found to be a not valid protest, and we did win the game. So I thought that had us locked up for being in second place, but there was actually a team that's coming up from. They were like in fourth place, but they've been winning week after week, and they had an extra game that we didn't have. We had a bye earlier. They didn't have any, or they had their buys earlier. I'm sorry. We have our bye last week. So, anyways, they were able to catch us on points. So they are tied, or they are below us right now, but we play them this week. So it basically comes down to the very last game of the playoffs for us to see which one of us gets in. All we have to do is either tie or win. They need to win in order to make it into the final game. And the thing that kind of stinks about that is our game's at 4 o'clock, and then assuming that we win or tie, we'll be playing in the final game for the championship against. They were undefeated. They actually lost last week, so we are now the only undefeated team. Although they have a better record than us because we tied three, and they had one more win. But anyways, so yeah, we'd be playing them at 7:30. So having a game at 4:10 and then another game at 7:20. It's kind of rough, but it is what it is, and I think we'll be up for it, and hopefully we're going to be in that game since I've already told my family to show up. So I am manifesting that and making it come true. This week I was cranking out the calls, or the last 2 weeks. I actually have been really trying to be more consistent with my cold calling. So let's see, I had the week of 3/6 to 3/13, I had called 247 people. I connected with 28 of them, and I had conversations with 19 people. The following week, which I believe was the week that I was sick, so I missed a couple days, I still called 104 people. I had 9 people that I connected with, 4 conversations. So I was able to pick up a listing appointment, and I possibly have another future listing out of that as well. Sometimes I don't add all the stuff in here too, so I'm making good contacts, and it's not always something that immediately leads to a deal of any type. But what I am doing is filling my pipeline. So some of these people have told me, yeah, I'm not ready right now, maybe in a month, or I'm gonna waiting till the end of the year, or I got this problem or that problem that's causing me a delay. So I just put them into my CRM, set up a task to follow up, in a month or whatever the date is, and then so yeah, just filling my pipeline that way so that I every day, instead of cold calling every day, now when I come in, like today I came in, I think I had 27 tasks to do today, which was all a follow up from people that are potentially at least warm. I've already talked to them at least one time. So, and then once I get done with all that, I again continue to do my cold calling. So that seems to be working. I'm excited about that. One of the deals I'm not sure if I mentioned it to you guys before, but the way I got it was through a Facebook group. It's a listing, so I was able to get that going last week, and it was pretty exciting because and this we're going to kind of blend right over to our content now. So what I'm going to talk about today, since I don't have a guest, was pricing. So how do you set your pricing? What is the proper way to set pricing? What do you do? When do you make adjustments? All that stuff. So the way I like to do it, and what I found to be very successful, is, well, first of all, let's talk about the three different kind of levels of pricing. You basically have three levels. You have your market price, where you think the house, what the value is based on some comps and what you think you might be able to get for it. So let's go above that. The first pricing do is, we call it aspirational pricing. So this is for special properties. Maybe it's got something very unique about it, or it's got some kind of great thing around it, or maybe it's a celebrity house, or some kind of other lore that goes along with the house that makes it special. It makes it demand a higher value than typical market. These are kind of special snowflakes, but they do exist out there, and we do have to account for them in our pricing and set that up. So it isn't an everyday thing that you come across, but it is out there. The next one down is just the market value, which we talked about a second ago. These are what other properties that are similar are going for. What we actually think we're probably going to get for the home, somewhere in that area, is what we call market value, right? So that's what we actually think the property is valued at. And then the other one we have is below market value. So this is lower than what we expect to get. And you might wonder, why, where do you set the price? So do you want to go below market, at market, above market? There's all kinds of theories about what the best way is. A lot of people think, especially I don't want I don't want to put any age groups with it, but there are different groups of people that have different thoughts and process on this. So do you mark it up high and hope people bid underbid it? A lot of people like to throw lowball offers out there. So if you're, let's just, well, actually, we can talk about a listing that I have. It's live right now, so I can't give you every number that's still out there because we haven't closed on the deal yet. But I can give you kind of a little bit of insight on what happened. So 275 is approximately what I thought the home was worth, and they were kind of hoping to get around that range as well. There was a little bit of there was something about this house that was kind of unique that made it not as appealing maybe to some buyers, and that's the fact that the access to the basement was in the garage, so you had to actually go out into the garage to go into the basement. So that was kind of inconvenient, and probably would cause some of a price disadvantage. Either way, though, I kind of just compared it to other prices, and we thought we were still pretty close in the range. It is in Farmington Hills, so that does help. It's nicely done. They cleaned it up nice. It looked nice. It showed well, and it looked good in the pictures. So, what was our pricing? So we were hoping to get around 275. Okay, somewhere in that area, 265 to 275 is where I thought we should would be. So what do we market it at? So what I decided to do, and this is the approach I always try to use, is what we're trying to do is create like an auction effect. Obviously, the list price is just an invitation, right? So we need to go. That's one of the things that you need to talk with about your sellers, because they don't understand. This is their first time doing this. They're not familiar with how everything works, and honestly, it's different than going to the store where maybe you have a price on there and you're not going to bargain them up or down or whatever. You just have the price, and the price is the price, right? And then you have the other people that think, well, if we put this price and they're going to lowball us, so we have to be over, blah blah blah. What I like to do is I like to get as many eyeballs on it as possible. So let's just take this one for instance. So 275. So as you know, when you're searching on Zillow too, the other thing you have to be aware of is what are the price brackets that people are searching in. So in that range where we're somewhere like 265, 270, the next lowest bracket is below 250, right? Because people look in groups of 25,000 at that level. So if they're looking for a house for, let's say, 250 or whatever, they're only going to go up to 250. They're probably not going to go up to 275. So if we listed at 260, we may lose all of those buyers and not get any of those eyeballs on our property. So my job as an agent is always to get as many eyeballs on a property as possible. That is our whole point of marketing the property. The more people that see it, the better off we are, the better chance we have of getting the higher price. And that's what we did with this house. So I ended up listing it at 249. I did have a conversation with the sellers that this is the plan, this is how we do it. We're trying to create an auction effect. We're trying to get tons of interest in the property. We do a coming soon. We usually do that on Tuesday, and then we go live on Friday is the way we like to do it. And then we usually have an open house on that first opening weekend. That's how I typically have been doing mine. So let's talk about this. So what did we get? What kind of action did we get? So I just listed the house last Friday. I'm sitting here today on Wednesday filming, and I do have an offer on the table today that we have numerous, but we have one that we're in particular probably going to take this evening. I've actually called for a deadline tonight at 7 p.m. for all offers. So how many showings did we have? I had I think it was 39 showings since Friday. So like I said, it's Wednesday now. So in the last 4 days, I had 39 showings. I also had the open house over the weekend where I had another, I think, 15 or so people show up over the 2 days. So very successful. Lots of action, lots of positive feedback on the listing. So it's very exciting, and obviously my sellers were excited to see all the action, and we're confident that we could get it done. So we did get the offers, like I said, and now we're just kind of picking and choosing which one we like the best. So that is my strategy for selling and for pricing. I'm not sure if it's the best way, but it's the way that seems to work. And what we're trying to do then is we try to drive the price up, because once you have competing offers, obviously those people are going to drive the price up a little. So even though, and we are above asking now, FYI. So yeah, so it's great. That is my suggestion on the best way to do pricing. Some people may like to go over asking and then hope that people are going to just underbid or whatever. To me, that just doesn't seem like the best way to do it. Maybe at another point in real estate history, that would have been a good way to do it. But the way things are now, we feel, not only me, but this is what they teach at my brokerage on pricing is the best way to do it. So, and basically it works. And you can see the proof is in the pudding here, and it is what it is. So, pricing, very the other thing I wanted to talk about pricing a little bit is, so let's say for instance, the harder part about pricing obviously is you're doing your best to compare it. It's not always easy to compare certain properties apples to apples, oranges to oranges, when you have unique properties and things. So sometimes the price that you may think is let's say 249 in this situation, maybe the house was only worth 249, so I really should have been at 225 to create the kind of interest that I wanted. You don't really know that until you go on market. You can do your best to guess, but basically the market is the market, and it sets the pricing. And so until you're actually on the market, you don't really know what's going to happen. So I always try to prepare my sellers for that, because the last thing you want to do is have them be disappointed in you or your marketing ability and all that. So I like to use. I learned this. I don't know who came up with it, but where I learned it was from Sharon Srivatsa. He was the CEO of Real. Very knowledgeable, great business guy. Now he's the CEO of Acquisition.com, which is owned by Alex Hormozy. He's one of my favorite guys. So, anyways, that's how I got found this, and they call it the 10-10-1. So basically, if you don't have 10 showings within the first 10 days, then you know you're overpriced. If you have 10 showings, but you don't get at least one offer in the first 10 days, then you also know you're overpriced. And then there's different degrees to this, so you can kind of tell if you have so many showings, how much of a percentage you should lower your price down. And that's kind of, you can kind of play with that a little bit more. But basic rule of thumb is 10-10-1 is a nice, easy number to remember. And it's a nice, easy thing to work with your clients as you're doing the listing presentation, to talk over all this stuff with them, so that, you know, like you said, we try to do the best we can to estimate what the house is worth, but the market is what the market is, and every house is different. People come in, they look at it different, and they're going to tell you what it's worth. So the market speaks, and the market is the final decision maker on what a house is worth. So we have to be prepared for that, and we have to be prepared to be able to talk with our clients about that, and make sure that that they understand that no matter what any other agent may come in here and tell you that they can sell your house for, because we all know those agents that'll buy, we call buy listings or whatever, just tell the client anything they want to hear just to get the listing. You're not doing anybody any service by doing that. You're not getting the house sold. Nobody is getting anything accomplished. So I feel that's a terrible way to do business, and we always like to make that known up front, that hey, I am an expert in estimating what I think the house is worth, but I am not the one that decides. The market is what decides, and we have to adjust accordingly. And this is how we do it. We have a setup plan. We do 10-10-1. It gives us a good spot to go back to and reference for pricing. So that is my suggestion on listing presentation and pricing in general, and how to preempt any kind of problems you might have, so that you don't run into pricing problems with your client, and so that they don't feel disappointed by what happens. So the great thing about what happened with this house, I got off the phone with my client yesterday, and they actually used the word ecstatic, right? So anytime a client tells you that they're ecstatic about the way things happen, it makes you feel good about your job. So, and they said, Joe, it happened exactly like you said it would. We created this auction effect. We had all these people, and they're driving these offers. So that is my suggestion for pricing. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me about it, or just reach out. I'd be happy to talk with any of you about it and about how we do things around here. So that's it today for the content. Next thing, we're going to go into agent attraction. So, I was having a little trouble this week coming up with stuff. I don't know why my mind's been kind of just out there, but sell homes. That's what I came up with today to attract agents. So how do you attract agents? You be a successful agent. I think that's a good way to do it. The other thing is, like, just don't be an ass. I think you see some agents, they don't communicate, they ignore your calls, they're just, or they're rude or whatever. They're trying to be. They don't want to share any information. They feel like somehow they're doing their client a disservice by sharing any type of information with you. But my way of kind of looking at it is like, we're all in this together for both of our clients to try to get the job done. So I try to be as friendly and give as much information as I can without divulging anything that would be against my client's best interest. But obviously, we're both here to get the job done, and I try to work as closely as I can in communication, and just being over communicate, I guess, would be the thing. So, and to me, that's attractive. So when I see that in another agent, it makes me want to work with them, and it makes me want to have them be part of my team. So that's kind of what my suggestion is this week for agent attraction, is just treat other agents with dignity, respect, and the kind of communication that you would want if you were on the other side of the table. Lead by example, I guess, is the final thing. So And now my local Joe to go thoughts for the week that might help you through this week. You know, yeah, I hear a lot of people always talk about, well, yeah, I get it, but I have this or I have that. Everybody's got a good excuse about why they can't do this or why they can't do that or why the odds are stacked against them and all those type of things. And I get that. And most of the time or a lot of the time you do have people that over exaggerate, but many times these people are right. They were wronged at some way when they were kids, or maybe they had something terrible, some kind of accident that happened to them or their family, or whatever it is that is a valid reason. And they're right. And now what? It's like you're right. You have every excuse in the world as to why you shouldn't be successful. And it's great. And 50 years from now, when you die, when people are thinking back to you, be like, yeah, he was pretty good, but he had all those reasons why he wasn't even more successful. So that's why Joe wasn't successful. He had all these bad things happen to him, and it's like, is that what you want people to remember you by? Is like, oh yeah, but he had good reasons why he sucked. I guess that's what it finally comes down to. So to me, it's like I feel kind of the opposite. It's like, well, yeah, I had all these things happen to me, and then I still was able to succeed. And so that's how I like to look at things. And it's just like, just you have every reason. Your excuses are valid, and so what? That's it's kind of kind of blunt and kind of out there, but that's just how it is. And I know sometimes when you're in the heat of something just happening to you, it's hard to overcome some of those feelings and the things that are going on and thoughts in your head. But once you kind of level out and think about it more deeply, you'll come to realize that, hey, yes, that was a setback, but look, I'm stronger than that. I can do it, and there's nothing that can stop me. And I think once you have that attitude, it's really hard to be beat. And that's where I'm at, and that's kind of attitude I have. Is like, it'd be very hard for someone to stop me because I am not going to be stopped. And that's just how I feel. And people that try to stop me or try to be negative or whatever, I just ignore them and move on and try not to communicate with them, honestly. Stay away from the bad seeds and just go toward positivity and people that are out to help you achieve your goals and successful people that are doing the things you want to do. I think that's one of the reasons I'm here at the Z team. We have a plethora of very successful agents and people that have been doing it for years and just a great team here. So that's why, you know, if you're going to be around people, be around successful people doing things that you want to do. Those are the people that you need to look up to, and those are the people that you want to be around. So, have a good week, everybody. I will speak to you soon. And look at that. I just got a notification. Hi, Joe. Has the seller made a decision yet? So, I have another person maybe trying to put an offer in on this house. So, I got to go handle that, and I will talk to you all next week. Have a great day.